The pink slip could be signed later today in Philadelphia for Nick Sirianni. It's amazing how quickly this has become a thing. As Chris and I said yesterday, though, it's not unprecedented. John Fox was fired by the Denver Broncos after 4 straight playoff appearances in 4 years on the job, 1 season after a Super Bowl appearance, a loss in the divisional round. John Fox out because John Elway, then the GM of the Broncos, wasn't happy that the team wasn't going out kicking and screaming. The Eagles sure as hell didn't go out kicking and screaming this year. They slipped into a 1-6 funk. Nick Sirianni couldn't get him out of it. They asked him after the game, what are you going to do to make it better? I have confidence I will. I don't know that that's the kind of plan that's going to placate the owner later today when, according to Jeff McClain of the Philadelphia Inquirer, Sirianni sits down both with owner Jeff Lurie and Howie Roseman for a routine meeting under anything but routine circumstances. And as McClain points out, it was that same end-of-season meeting with Doug Peterson that went sideways 3 years ago because Peterson had some ideas for new coordinators. Jeffrey Lurie didn't like them. Impasse happens, and yada, 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 time for a new coach in Philadelphia. So all we got to consider is that, and I still can't figure out the ingredients of this cocktail of expressions that Jeffrey Lurie had. It wasn't just one. It was like 5 different faces in one that came into this mask that told you this guy's not happy. He's shocked, he's stunned, he's mad, he's everything but a guy who looks inclined to embrace the coach who's responsible for what he witnessed in Tampa on Monday night, Myles.
And it's not just what he witnessed in Tampa. I mean, it goes back to those weeks that you just referenced. I mean, going into a 1-6 funk after you started out the season 10-1, and you got Nick Sirianni being all cocky, going up the tunnel in Kansas City and all those things. I was like, man, what happened here? Why is it that, you had a team that went to the Super Bowl, yes, lost both coordinators, and also I think we understand Jonathan Gannon, Shane Steichen, they're good coaches, right? The way Shane Steichen had the Colts rolling there with Gardner Minshew almost make it to the postseason. The Cardinals, they did some really good things. Cardinals went up to Philadelphia, beat the Eagles. So those guys are really good coaches, and it's hard to replace really good coaches. But the fact that Nick Sirianni is the head man here and put Sean Desai in charge of the defense, then decided midway through the season, that's not good. You know who we're going to replace him with? Matt freaking Patricia. Ooh, baby. Puts Brian Johnson in charge of the offense and says over the course of the year, yeah, but it's my offense. So, if things aren't working, it's mostly on me. But Brian Johnson's the play caller. There are some weird things going on in Philadelphia, and I don't know if it's that Sirianni has lost the locker room. It's that the coaches just aren't good enough. I don't know, but that face that Lurie was making, and then there was a video of him walking toward the locker room after. It did not strike me as somebody who is confident that he has the right head coach in place to then make the necessary changes that are going to make this team successful in 2024.
They were the more talented team in Super Bowl 57, and they should have won, and they didn't. And one of the reasons they didn't win, frankly, is because Nick Sirianni, a couple opportunities to do what we'd seen him do, 4th and short, go for it, 4th and short, go for it, got a little too conservative, opened the door for the Chiefs to come back and take that game. And then this year, 10-1. And look, either it's as simple as they get blown out at home by the 49ers and they realize it's not their year and they give into that and the coaching staff never coaches them out of that funk, or there's some ugly, nasty stuff that happened behind the scenes that we don't know about yet and might never know about that caused infighting and acrimony and, at the end of the day, 6 losses in 7 games as the Eagles just disintegrated down the stretch. And who knows? And maybe there'll be 10 different versions of whatever happened that caused this team in the city of brotherly love to basically create the vibe that there's a lot of hate in that locker room, or at a minimum, apathy. Whatever it was, though, and this is the bottom line. This is why if I'm Jeff Lurie, I want to hear what Nick Sirianni's plan is, and he better not go in there and say, I'm confident it'll get better. Confidence doesn't mean jack squat in this setting. That was the weirdest answer of his press conference the other night. What are you going to do to make why are you so confident it's going to get better? Because I'm confident. I'm confident. I've reached the height of my profession. Well, so has every other coach in the NFL, and they're getting fired left and right. You better have more than just I'm confident when you're sitting down with the boss and the boss's boss trying to figure out what you're going to do to successfully accomplish next season what you failed on the fly as it was happening to make happen now. You couldn't fix it. It's up to you as the head coach to diagnose the problem and fix it. The team is crumbling, and you're just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. Just try harder and just be confident. You got to have more than that. He better have a damn good plan for fixing this. And if Brian Johnson and Sean Desai were his hand-picked replacements, and we know about the whole Jonathan Gannon thing, I mean, in some respects, you can pin all of this back to Jonathan Gannon knowing he was interviewing with the Cardinals, believing he was getting the job, and not saying a damn word to anybody so they could plan for it appropriately. And I know the Eagles are very reticent to get into the details, and they don't want to point fingers. And this all goes back to them getting caught flat-footed and not being able to keep Vic Fangio on the payroll, make him from consultant to defensive coordinator. That's what they wanted to do, and it was too late. He took the job with Miami by the time that they could come back around and say, hey, guess what? Gannon's leaving, and he didn't tell us. Now, that doesn't fix things on offense, but hard to believe the defense would have been as bad as it was this year if they had found a way to keep Vic Fangio.
I totally agree with you on that. I mean, and the Dolphins defense had injuries and all this different kind of stuff, which is part of why they have not been as good as you might think that they would have been toward the end of the year. But yeah, look, there was a moment though, Mike, on Monday night, you should talk about, players' locker room and all this stuff, where Dallas Goedert went up to Jalen Hurts on the bench. And, I kind of gestured at him. And obviously, I don't know what was said, but it wasn't the only moment that we've seen something like that happen with a player on offense, a skill player on offense, and Jalen Hurts. Right. And I don't know what's going on there, but I'll tell you what, that moment, it reminded me of this old clip of Peyton Manning and Jeff Saturday, where Jeff Saturday was, criticizing some stuff that had gone on during a play. And Peyton Manning, he gets up and he goes over there and screams at him. And he says, hey, man, if I tell you to block, you need to block. Blah, 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 blah. And I don't know if that's the kind of thing that's missing from Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles and that offense, where sometimes the quarterbacks just got to start going off on people in order to properly motivate them. And that might not be Jalen Hurts' style. And I'm not saying that he should be somebody he's not, but it's hard for me to think of a time where you get a really, truly great quarterback, right? And you got skill players gesturing at them on the sideline, and they don't really react to that. And Jalen Hurts, I know he's stoic, and it's part of what made him great last year and all that. But man, you're the quarterback. You can't have guys clowning you on the sideline like that, man. It just, everything feels weird and off. And I don't know why that is, but at a certain point, yeah, you got to look at the head coach and say, man, you've lost control of this thing. And how are you going to get it back? And if you don't have a good plan for it, man, then maybe we need to move on.
One last thing to consider, and this just occurred to me, the meeting with Roseman and Lurie is going to happen at the end of the day after exit interviews with players, meetings with coaches. Sirianni might feel like he's been kicked around and beat up by the time he even sits down with Lurie and Roseman as he's going through these player exit interviews. And if people have things to say and they say it and you're hearing that, I mean, that just takes a toll on you mentally, emotionally, and at some point physically, where you just feel like you've been, you just been rolled around and just, oh God, I just want to go home and go to bed. So he may not be in the mood, the right state of mind to say what needs to be said by the time the end of the day comes and he meets with Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman. But, we've been generally watching Dallas. We need to specifically be watching Philadelphia today because this is the day it could all blow up. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.